was a temporary project director for Bethesda Games' development department for a short period of time during the launch of their fourth installment of the Elder Scrolls saga, Oblivion. From early 2004 until its release in the spring of 2006, my team and I were responsible for the quest storyboarding and design, mapping out and detailing each quest objective, any necessary story component, and of course, the reward. One quest in particular had me regret I've ever been a part of that team. Even the executive producer, Mr. Todd Howard, admits that this isn't something he could ever imagine happening to a game like this. This quest, rather, this Achievement Award quest, was actually a very real, very important part of the game. Entitled Infiltration, it was the second last and most unusual quest for the Fighters Guild, and a quest result we didn't originally plan to produce. In fact, we didn't expect to produce. In case you've ever played the game, the factions quest follow a league of fighters who are hired to perform jobs, involving a great deal of fighting as the name suggests. After you further yourself through the guild, you learn about a group called the Blackwood Company, who are stealing members from the guild and performing jobs created almost out of thin air. Here's where things start to get bizarre. For the quest, you are told to pose undercover as an interested recruit of the Blackwood Company to learn their secrets. We as a team had already agreed that this is how we wanted the quest to begin, but it's been a reoccurring nightmare from us that follows. Once you become a member, you're tasked with your first assignment of eliminating a few goblins from a town just north of the city, Leowani. We sat in the boardroom for an hour, rallying ideas until one of us suggested that we add a hallucinogenic substance for the sole purpose of the quest, loosely named Hist Sap. For the quest, you are given it as a gift to drink for your first mission, unknowingly ingesting the rare hallucinogenic. Before you know, you're in the village and tasked with killing the goblins. Now, I don't exactly know why we decided to go this direction, why we wanted to create such an abnormal, unsettling mission, but this is the way we all strangely wanted. Almost as an overwhelming temptation. But here's the thing. The end of the mission is where things start to fall apart during the testing sessions. To end the mission, you must go to the village after awakening from the hallucinogenic, only to discover to your horror that the goblins you imagined yourself slaying were not goblins at all, but animals and people. But what was meant to only be a row of dead bodies to the player turned into something nightmarish. We first heard about the discovery one evening, when an emergency meeting was called to the studio to review what the game developers found, myself included. We were greeted by a disturbed group of pale-skinned developers and animators, who briefed us quickly on the subject matter. Trembling, one of the animators, the one specifically testing the quest, tried to explain what he saw, and what's worse, what he heard. I will tell you what happened, but try to understand that this was no rendering error, no glitch or flaw in the game coding, or any other factor we tried to establish. Everything checked out. What I witnessed there in the studio that day, I will never forget. The animator sat at his station, claiming to have recorded the incident to recall his work in case of accidental deletion. He maneuvered the video to the exact point in the recording, and once he hit play, the entire room fell silent. At first, it was nothing out of the ordinary. It was exactly how the mission progressed into when you visit the village a second time. Only this time, quality seemed to be grainy and unsaturated, like an old movie. As the character walks a bit further towards the settlements, you saw a man standing in between two homes facing the opposite direction. As the character moved closer, the man began to distort. After 20 seconds of footage, the game appears to lag to a point of a still frame, with the man still facing forward. The animator assured us that this is exactly what happened to him, and his video did not stall. After about 7 seconds, the frame rate began to pick up again, only this time the man began to turn around. This face looked as though it was pieced together from several different face models, but grotesquely, disfigured proportioned as a mess of random horrifying placements. At this point, there was no sound in the game, just a faint buzz and a crackle of green. The character moved around, but the face followed. And only the face. The rest of his body, still disordered and now bloody as if to suggest he was a victim, remained grounded and still. Suddenly, after a minute or so, the character's view shifts hard to the left, and on cue the animator points out something enormously disturbing. Children, who were among the dead, were suspended in the air, staring blankly in the face of the character, slowly being glitched backwards as they remain perfectly still. The character moves closer and the children keep watching, the legs dangling lifelessly. The bodies, one by one, glitched through the landscape as if they were being swallowed. As each children disappeared from the rocky terrain, the noise began to enhance and transform. Distinctive moans could be heard periodically, but then something happened. The screen flashed, black and white, and black and white, and black and white, but this time the screen stats were there. The health bar, the compass. It was as if the character was transported to some sort of void room, while it began to render random chunks of raw data and designs littering the void from every direction. The animator couldn't explain why the game had taken him to this place of limbo. 5 or 6 minutes passed in the recording. By this time, many other designers had left, too shaken from the experience, but I stayed. Suddenly a line of dialogue appeared at the bottom of the screen, but it's unreadable, from the likes of strange symbols and omitted letters, from words completely jammed together. A noise is heard, a man's voice, a slurred gibberish. His tone is angry but sorrowed, but yet gets louder after every passing second until it's almost a scream. When the game starts to lose control, the character starts to spawn all over the map, but everybody is lifeless. The character at this point cannot move. It is forced into a point of view, locked in place as the horror flashes over and over. At this point, Howard urges the animator to turn it off, but the video remained on. A point came where the sound stopped. The game ceased to randomly spawn the character, stopped exactly where it started. A grainy, unsaturated view of a village. But this time, the man was not there. The man with his face stitched and pieced together like a rag doll. Abruptly, the man rose from the ground, inches away from the character, eyes as black as night and his mouth wide open. He started to speak. "You did this!" Over and over, his speech turning to shouts. And his shouts to screams, repeating with the movement over his mouth. "You did this! You did this!" The video stopped. The room was quiet, and the air was thick. The animators did all they could to fix the problem, but the children still float lifeless, as if the game was broken beyond repair, to what was experienced that evening. No one ever spoke again of it, and the evidence and its contents destroyed. A month later, I left Bethesda. I've not shared this experience until now, and myself and the rest of the team swore to secrecy, but I felt this need to be shared. I've never looked nor touched this game ever again.